Call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Siloam Springs for January 3rd, 2023. Roll call.
Blair.
Blair. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Smiley.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
At this time, if you all will please stand with me as Director Carroll leads us in a word of prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, Father. We thank you for a new year and new opportunities, new things that we can accomplish and be a part of. You are the author of life. You are the giver of life. You are life. We thank you for that blessing that you have given to us, that we may be life within this community. We will be that strength and that courage as we represent the citizens of this community of Siloam Springs. We thank you for the openness of a brand new year and the opportunities that lie ahead of us. We can make wise decisions and do well and enjoy. In this we give thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would like to ask anyone that has an electronic device, if you would please silence that or turn it off so we don't have an interruption during the meeting. I apologize that we started a little late. I just received a text right before the meeting that my neighbor of almost 50 years passed away just a few minutes ago. So I apologize. I will try to keep my composure, and I appreciate your patience. So at this time, we have the swearing in of our new directors. I believe that the only one that will be sworn in tonight is Director Hunt. So, Renee. Thank you, Renee and Mindy. Congratulations on another term. Congratulations to our newest members to our board, Ken and Betsy. We welcome you, and we look forward to a good 4 years of serving our community. I know you will do that well. And Lisa, the one opposed, you are with us for another 4 years, and we congratulate you on that also. So you're very welcome. So with that done, now we will move on to the election of our vice mayor for the next 2 years. I will accept nominations, and then we will vote upon those nominations as presented. So in order as presented. So do I have a nomination from the board?
Madam Mayor,
Ken, and then Carol.
I would like to nominate David.
David Allen, okay. Carol?
I would like to nominate Reed Carroll.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? If not, we will take a voice vote, and we will begin with David. Renee? Yeah, do a roll call vote, please.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
No.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
No.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
No.
4-3 in favor.
So that is the majority, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the majority vote is 4-3, and David will be the vice mayor for the next 2 years. Thank you all for your nominations. And next, we will have time for the public input. To start this off, I believe that the president of our chamber, Arthur, has some presentations he would like to take care of for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Board. It's excited to be here with you guys, and it is my pleasure to get a chance to announce the winners of our Holly Jolly Christmas 3rd Annual Deck the House Decorating Contest. And obviously want to thank the many people that made it possible, but I do want to give some statistics. The website we had over 21,747 views, and we had 3,864 engagements, and 3,485 people clicked on the map to go by these houses. So really none of this would have happened had it not been for the collaboration of the board, the people in this room, and even the new board members were very much a part of making this happen. And they collectively got award money that we're going to be presenting out. I have gotten some liberty to be able to do that, and we'll have a picture here. Mark will do it with the board. So I will announce there were 4 award winners, and then after I announce them and give a couple comments, and we'll come up, Mark will take a picture, and we have gotten permission from the mayor and city manager on this, city administrator. Ward 1's winner is at 109 Greenwood Place, and that was Amanda Hitson. And each of these received a $100 award for their home decorating just success that they had, and then the overall winner will have another 100 on top of that. So Ward 1 was Amanda Hitson at 109 Greenwood Place. Ward 2 was 1894 North Midland Knoll. That's Mel Phillips. Ward 3 was 506 Carter Court. That's Lyle Winters. Ward 4 was 614 South Madison Street, and that's Stanley Church. Each of the award winners were called, and they were invited to be here. And then we have a big drum roll for Mark. Thank you very much, Mark. Overall grand winner goes to, looks like it's Ward 2. Mel Phillips receives an extra $100, so $200 total at 1894 North Midland Knoll. Once again, this would not have been possible had it not been for the collaboration of the board, and I would be remiss if I did not recognize Lindsay and Jenna with the chamber for their efforts of that too. We also want to thank the many houses that did participate and made this possible. We had many houses participate, many people judging. Many citizens gave their votes for what their favorite was, and they also received awards and gift cards provided by the board. And I think that is it. So we're going to present the checks.
If you could have them line them up by ward, that'd be perfect.
Okay. Whatever he just said. We will line them up by ward. We'll have Ward 1 over here, and then Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. And we want to make sure the board is in the background. So Ward 1, so it'd be Amanda Hitson. And then Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. I don't know if y'all need to stand to be. So stand right here.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Congratulations to you, and however you want to smile.
If we can
Squeeze in.
Dan?
Oh.
Mayor, whatever. The board wants to squeeze in too, that's good too.
Stand up. Yeah, y'all need in here too. You
And
all
y'all know each other,
pay attention.
Just for the moment.
just for the moment.
I don't think they're gonna see.
Carol's not gonna be
Carol. Carol, you need to go on the end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you to all that participated, and congratulations to our winners. I know you helped to make our city look beautiful for this holiday season, and we appreciate all of that. So we are still on our public input time. Is there anyone that would like to address the board concerning any item that is not on the regular agenda? Please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
James McGuirk, 412 West University Street. Mayor, you cannot veto something that the board did not approve. You are breaking the law by spending taxpayers' money that you're not allowed to spend, is my first item. My second item is to Reed Carroll. At the last meeting, you let people clap, holler, laugh, and play the fools. You did not stop these people. You just let it go on. And then they booed and laughed at Director Allen. You let that go on. And that's not good. That's not a way to run this place. You have a serious conflict of interest with the Main Street Siloam. Whatever happens on Main Street, I don't think you should be voting for any of it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
Larry Kennemore, 207 Western Hills Drive. First, I want to be clear that I'm not here for or against providing funds to any organization in the city of Siloam that you vote for. What I am for is to talk with you about the sad state of operations of this board and the video of the meeting of December 20th, 2022 that anyone can view. First, I need to remind some of you about Brad Burns' statement, and I'm sure wish Brad Burns was here to see me say this. When Brad was on the board, he told this board a number of times in meetings which I've reviewed, you may not agree on things, and you may disagree about things, but you must be respectful to each other and not take things personal and act professional. With that said, I'd like to thank my ward representative, Mindy Hunt, at the December 20th, 22 meeting, and her statement about this is a team, you're members of a team, and a board member, you are a team and a team for the citizens. However, for acting Vice Mayor Reed Carroll, to advise an organization doing business with the city of Siloam Springs that you are going to stand in the gap for them is shameful. Shameful first, as that's not in your job description. But it certainly puts on the record your bias, conflict of interest, and apologizing to an organization for what the board has done, I don't think that's in your job description either. Lastly, the lack of order at the December 2022 meeting is really shameful. First off, laughing at board members and failure of Vice Mayor Reed Carroll to allow it to continue and then to attempt to stop it is also shameful. And then having to have our prior board member, Marla Sappington, do the job of the vice mayor and address the audience about clapping certainly should raise the issue with this board about the continued participation of Reed Carroll on this board. So as this board continues, you need to be reminded You represent your ward, the citizens, and not your own special interests, because citizens are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, is there anyone that would like, excuse me, to address the board on any item that is on our consent agenda tonight? If not, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes, December 20, 2022. B, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 910 Rains Road. Item C, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 1504 East Kenwood Street. Item D, dedication of utility easements, 21,000 block of Arkansas Highway 16. E, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 2795 and 2831 Waukesha Road. Item F, dedication of utility easements, 825 and 833 West Granite Street. Item G, Resolution 01-23, amending certain purchasing requirements for utility inventory. Directors, is there any item on this consent agenda that you would like to have removed for further discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, resolutions. Resolution 02-23, procedures and organizational matters of the Board of Directors. Director Patterson, I believe that is you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So State Act 235 of 2015 requires that all governing bodies of cities and towns have an organizational meeting every year beginning in January. And that purpose of that meeting is to determine its orders of proceedings. So the procedures are generally in our adopted and your adopted or organizational matters are based on basically state statutes. Not everything, but the general regulations are based on state statutes and governing municipalities and the city administrator form of government. So since 2016, when these were originally adopted, there's been a few amendments in order to make them conform to state statutes. There wasn't any amendments last year. I had a proposed an amendment as it relates to the mayor's veto authority based on the finding of the state statute that was addressed at the last board meeting under the mayor's authority. It was originally written based on general regulations applying to municipalities and the city manager form of government under the provisions of board meetings. So I tried to craft a amendment that was related to both the state statutes 14-48 111B and 14-48 120G. It's up to the board as to whether or not you wish to amend those rules and regulations or not, and it's up to the board to they're your regulations, your organizational matters as to how the meetings are run, so it's up to you as if you wish for further amendments. Madam Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 02-23? If there is not, directors, comments, questions? There are none. Then do I have a motion to approve or adopt Resolution 02-23?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mayor,
Yes.
do we not get to
David.
discuss that?
Yes, sir. I had asked for comments or questions from the board, and there were none. Do you have one now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Then before we do that, I need to ask if, Reed, are you willing to withdraw your second?
Madam Mayor, you didn't ask for discussion
I
by
will
the
withdraw
board.
my second. We'll allow for some discussion.
You and Carol? You do not want to withdraw your motion?
But you did ask.
I did indeed.
You asked for discussion on something that was not yet a motion. Once you have a motion, you have to allow the opportunity for an amendment to the motion.
No, sir. Once I have asked for discussion and questions by the board, there are none. I ask for a motion. A motion was made, and it was seconded, and
Once
we
a
move
motion
forward.
and second is made, then there's an opportunity for making an amendment to the motion.
Okay?
It is permissible to allow discussion on the motion.
Okay?
Yeah.
So a discussion on the motion itself.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Which could potentially include an amendment.
Okay, okay. So, you have a discussion on the motion? Okay.
Yeah, I would like to offer an amendment.
Yes, sir. What would that be?
Pass that down to the clerk to distribute.
Or were we supposed to take one?
Well, it says the clerk is supposed to distribute them.
Does everyone have a copy? Okay, David, what is your amendment?
I am making a motion to amend the board rules by the page that I have handed out. And I'm making that as a motion to amend.
All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Lisa?
Can we go through these, is this the same thing in our,
That's the ones we have currently.
so this matches what's in the agenda?
Yes.
Well,
The one for 2023.
Except for the redacted part.
except for what was changed by the,
Oh, we don't, how many of these do we have?
memo page.
I think everyone does have a copy of this, do they not, in front of them? You do not? Okay.
There's 3 or 4 throughout.
Okay. So,
I can also share 'em.
Madam Mayor, just for clarification, my understanding is that what we have in our packet is the same exact as this, except for the redacted version that you're wanting to
Correct.
change. Is that correct?
Right.
What we have in our packet is what this is, except for the one section that's redacted.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mindy.
There were a few changes that had been made by Mr. Patterson, but
Fair.
That are different from what
Did you want
is on the table?
I didn't print it. So I could write it.
yeah, no.
it was moving something from one place to another.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you are looking at six A, is that correct?
Madam Mayor, are you talking to Director Allen?
I'm sorry, yes, Director Allen.
I'm
is-
sorry, I didn't know who you were talking to.
I'm sorry, I should have told you. I was asking that.
Regarding the 6A presentation.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I simply asked that the presentations had been moved by Mr. Patterson from 7 up to the top of above the consent agenda, which doesn't matter to me, but I felt the contracts and approvals should be not under the consent agenda. They should be under the regularly scheduled items. On the other things, there's things that I've asked for before and get ignored, so decided to ask for them in the board rules. One of them had to do with Betsy Blair saying something at the board meeting, I guess October, November, about having the board speak before the public speaks on the procedure, which is something I've asked for before as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
as Director Allen is going through some of these, if we have questions, should we wait until he gets through all of it, or, like, I need clarification on the statement that he just made.
So I think that
How do
perhaps
you wanna
we
do
need
that?
to do them each as we go
As we
through
go,
them.
okay.
So that we are all on the same page as they're being discussed.
Yeah, I'm afraid I won't remember by the time we get all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Can
okay.
you provide clarification on what you just said about what Betsy said regarding when the directors? So,
That's on
open
6.
it up to the directors being able to speak during public comments? Is that what you're saying?
No, I am reversing the order of after the presentation by staff and applicants. I'm reverting it to the way it was when Moose was mayor and I was mayor, that the board had the opportunity to speak to the staff first and ask
Oh.
questions.
Okay,
And then, after we were done, the audience asked questions.
okay.
So you want to reverse the order in which we do that? You want the staff to present, and then the
Well, the staff-
directors?
staff
yeah,
isn't gonna
staff-
change.
Staff is going to present, and then the directors will have the opportunity to ask questions and give their comments, and then the public will have an opportunity. Is that correct? That's what you wanted to switch, is the order of that?
That's the way it always was until
Okay.
Mayor Turner changed it.
I don't remember that. I always
That's-
thought that the audience spoke first. When I was vice mayor, I always call for the audience first.
Madam Mayor?
Mayor Turner changed that. It had always been the board of directors had first opportunity to ask questions of staff. And the reason was, the thought was that many of the audience questions could be answered by what staff has asked. When I would sit in the audience and have something that I would want to ask that was only brought up after a board member had said something, we didn't have the opportunity to speak anymore. The public was shut down time and time again because we had our time to speak. But for decades, it was board first, public second.
Okay, and then the board of directors, okay, no comment, public comments, you said there's no change, is that correct?
Where are you at now?
I am on,
Yeah,
yes,
well,
okay,
there's just no change. It just
Right.
goes differently in the order.
sure, okay. And then you have duties and privileges,
I simply changed that because as it read, it simply said the seating is in the order of ward 1 through 4. Or by ward, and there's 3 people here that don't have a ward. And the state law actually refers to positions, numerical 1 through 7.
So wards 1 through 4 would be together, and then your at-large.
Well, wards
4
1 through 4 are positions 1
but-
through 4.
Right, and then you have your at-large. So you're just stating that we would sit the way we are seating now, or sitting now,
But
right?
I'm just saying,
Okay.
the way it is now, it simply says by ward.
Okay. You just want to add that in. Okay. And then voting. Only the last two sentences changed, which are a contract or approval requires 4 affirmative votes. An ordinance or resolution requires 4 affirmative votes by directors to pass. Suspending the rules and reading an ordinance by title only requires a 2/3 majority affirmative votes, and emergency clause also requires 2/3 majority vote. And
I looked at that if we have a situation like we had the first meeting in December, or if we have a meeting where a quorum is all we have, which is 4 votes, as it reads now, you would have to have 5 votes. And if you did not have 5 votes, you would literally have to read the entire ordinance instead of just reading the title. So I thought if we ever have just a quorum, just 4 people, then we still ought to be able to do it the way we've been doing it, with just reading the title.
is that, Jay?
Madam Mayor, state law requires the 5 votes,
Okay,
so that can't be changed by city policy.
okay.
What do we do then, Jay, if we only have 4 people show up?
If we only have 4 people, then we go by the vote of the 4 people.
No, that's not a matter of vote. It's a matter of reading title only, meaning we have to read the entire act?
That would be the case, yes.
Okay.
Through that, Director Allen, or table it until there's a super quorum, super majority.
So that change we cannot do. It's set by state statute.
I was trying to be practical that if we only had a quorum, because
Sure.
the quorum is 4 people.
Apparently, it is just not something that we have the authority to do.
That would not be enforceable.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So that would not be a part of the change.
Well, I'd hate to be at a meeting where we have a big agenda and only 4 people.
We're on number 5.
Yes, quorum, mm-hmm.
Number 4.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We haven't moved to quorum yet.
We're on voting.
Yes. And according to state statute, according to what Jay tells us, this change to requiring the 4 votes, if that's all we have here is 4 directors, we cannot change. It has to be 5. Yes.
So we can't use that one.
No. And then moving to the quorum, majority of the board of directors shall be necessary to constitute a quorum to do business. And what we have now is the majority of the board of directors shall be necessary to constitute a quorum to do business. The
So
concurrent.
do we need the rest of the paragraph?
Didn't seem like it since it's only
Affirmative votes
to
to
do
pass.
with quorum.
And Jay, there again, I would defer to your,
And that's covered by state law, so the purpose of these rules is to try to set things out in accordance with state law.
right?
But it's not necessary. It'll be a requirement either way.
Okay, so what it says now is in accordance with state law.
That is
and-
correct.
And should be left as is that correct?
Again, it's not an absolute requirement, but it
Okay.
is a
But it
guide.
is state law.
A guide, yes, to what the state law requires.
Okay, all right.
So we basically need the full paragraph.
No, we do not.
Are you saying we have to have the paragraph at all?
All you have to do is designate what equals a quorum. The rest of that paragraph is irrelevant.
I think you don't have to have the rest of the paragraph. As I stated earlier, we tried, when these were originally drafted, we tried to make it as, following state statute as much as possible. The rest of that paragraph strictly speaks to that, any votes, once you have a quorum of any procedural motions, are sufficient for the majority of those attending, except for a motion to suspend the rules, which requires 5. And it goes on to state that ordinances and resolutions require 4 affirmative votes.
And you've
Well, that's-
already got that in other paragraphs.
And I was going to say, that's just state law, and that's pretty much a given, so it's up to the
The
board on
rest of
that.
it has to do with voting, and that's not what quorum is about, so
But it can,
So,
the rest of it's covered in other paragraphs.
making that number 5, where it says quorum, a majority of the board of directors shall be necessary to constitute a quorum to do business, period. Yes. Okay, so that is part of the amendment, so that would stay. Next, we move on to, looks like C1B, which is mayor's veto power. The suggested wording is the mayor has the power to veto any ordinance, resolution, or order other than personnel passed by a majority of the board of directors and or adopted by the board of directors within 5 days of the board of directors' vote, at which time the mayor shall file in the city clerk's office a written statement of reasons for the veto. The mayor's veto statement will be communicated to the board of directors by the city clerk immediately upon her receipt of the statement of veto. At the first board of directors meeting following the veto, the board may override the veto by a 2/3 majority or 5 affirmative votes. And as it says now,
So we're changing from 3 to 5 days? That's what it's doing?
No, we already were 5 days. I basically kept exactly what we've had for years and years.
So, Jay, I have a question on that. So the state says it's 3 days. We say it's 5 days. Explain to me if our rules, let me ask my question in its entirety. So if our rules are set one way, but we're more strict, does our rule follow or their rule follow? I think one attorney told me that you can, as long as it's more strict, we could be more strict, we just can't be more lenient.
Well, state law is going to control. So, under state law, there are 2 days for the matter to be delivered to the mayor, and then 3 days to act on a veto. So that totals 5 days if you count the delivery period. But so we've got 2 somewhat different ways we're approaching this. So, but if you strictly go by state law, then the mayor only has 3 days from receipt of the item to veto it or not. But again, if you include, if the delivery time, if for whatever reason the mayor's not there, or there are amendments have to be made, or for whatever reason the mayor does not receive it immediately upon the vote, you can add up to 2 more days.
Okay. So as we go through this, my original question, can you answer it, please?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So if our laws are not as, our laws are more strict and not, we can create laws that are more strict, but we can't create, we can create resolutions that are more strict, but we can't create resolutions that are more lenient, because it starts with state law and then can go up from there.
If I understand your question, no. I mean, the state law, whatever power is granted by state law, the board cannot take away.
Right. That's the baseline, but we can add to it, make it more strict. Can we not? That's what one attorney told me.
I don't believe we can make more strict than state law, no.
Jay, we have done that repeatedly where we have made city law stricter than state law by having above and beyond what state requires. Every city has the opportunity to do that. Otherwise, they would just have blindly, everything in their statutes as state law.
Which I guess that was my question.
Madam Mayor,
yes.
if I may, I think we're talking almost 2 different, we're not talking apples and apples. I think Director Ressler is correct in certain areas, that in certain areas you can be more restrictive than state law. And in the case of this particular issue, the mayor's veto power, I'm not sure that that is correct, because state law gives certain authority to elected officials, in this case the mayor. And I don't believe, and Jay, I thought you indicated to me that there was some case law or Attorney General's opinion that cities could not restrict that authority given by the state to elected officials. So if that's what we're talking about, I think that's what Jay's referring to. I'm not sure if that's what Director Ressler is referring to. In the case of some planning regulations and some of those things, zoning or something along those lines, I think you can at times be more restrictive than the state. But there are other times I don't think you can, in the case of what authority is given to elected officials. So again, I mean, if we're talking apples and apples, I think we need to be very clear specifically what that statute is or what that rule is that we're talking about being more restrictive of.
So actually, I was referring to the whole rest of it because I haven't read all the rest of it. But since you brought that up, so you've been asking us to vote the last 3 years that I've been on the board for these specific rules. Okay, the rules in this, let me read, says the board of directors shall at time of organizing in public session, or nope, sorry, wrong section. The mayor's veto. The mayor has the power to veto any ordinance, resolution, or order other than personnel or part thereof adopted. We forgot that word last meeting that I got browbeated. Adopted by the board of directors within 5 days, Sunday excluded, of the board of directors vote. So you've been telling me for the last 3 years you've been asking me to vote on this, and it doesn't even apply. Is that what I'm being told?
No, ma'am. What I said at the beginning of this discussion was that when we adopted these in 2016, we tried to, we were under the gun to adopt them. We looked at some recommendations from AML. We looked at what other cities were doing. And the goal was to base it on those particular issues related directly to state statutes.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to base it on the state statute that we knew at the time. Since that time, I also said that we had amended the rules and regulations to conform with state statutes when we found additional issues that came up. Until December of this year, I don't think we had foreseen the issue that came up. And in trying to research what options there were, we came across the other provision under the mayor's authority that stated that any decision of the board could be vetoed. So what I was proposing to do, as I stated earlier in my presentation, was to try to conform that particular section of the procedurals to what is state statute.
So what we had before applied still. It's still, we voted on it, it was a resolution, and it applied. We still were required to follow those rules.
And the state statute still applies also.
As a basis.
As I believe, and Jay believes, supersedes. I mean, that's the mayor's authority granted to the mayor by the state.
Then why did you put this in here years before, for 3 years?
Because I can't necessarily tell you everything, or what we tried to do in trying to put these procedural rules together was look at what the state statute said, and we found one state statute, which we've talked about over and over again, that stated under the board's rules and regulations, under the, board meetings, (1448) 120 GB, the mayor shall have a period of 3 days from the date of, that's from the receipt. G1A, all ordinance, resolutions, and motions adopted by the board at a regular meeting shall be delivered to the mayor within 48 hours after the adoption. The mayor shall have a period of 3 days from the date receipt of any ordinance, resolution adopted by the board to approve or veto it. That was what we originally based that section on. And based on what occurred in December, going back and looking at what the mayor's authority is under state statute, the mayor shall have the power to veto over all decisions made by the board except matters related to city personnel. So every time we have amended some of the rules and regs, at least from staff's perspective, when we have proposed amendments, we've tried to make them conform to state statute. And when this came up and we found this other state statute, that's when I felt it was appropriate, at least for me, as your city administrator, to propose the amendment to conform with state statutes, because that's what it needs to be. Because it doesn't appear that authority granted by the state to elected officials can be superseded by rules and regs of the city board. Now, I stated that was your question, and that's why I was trying to state, let's talk apples and apples. I'm not saying that can't happen with other rules and regs at times, but when there is specific authority granted to an elected official, it doesn't appear that the board can restrict that authority. So my attempt was to try to straighten these procedurals to conform with state statutes. That's all I was trying to do, and that's the discussion other than what Director Allen has brought to the table.
Okay, I have two more questions. So have we had AML look at these?
Not to my knowledge, no. We got some of it
Why?
originally from AML in 2016, I believe, but I can't say that I've submitted them to AML for their comments.
So if we get in legal hot water, they're there to represent us, we pay them.
Yes.
So why have we not asked for their legal advice?
They're not a legal hard document. That they're your procedures that you're intended to follow, but it's not to say you have to follow them to the letter of the law. It hasn't been followed to the letter of the law per se. I don't want to use that term, that's the wrong term, but it hasn't been followed exactly every single time. But it provides an outline for how board meetings work. And why the state required every board in the state to adopt their procedures in 2015 going into 2016, I can't answer. But they required every board to adopt them.
Okay, I think that if AML is who we pay for legal advice, we should get it. We should take advantage of it.
Happy to do that.
So the law that you discussed, the veto rights on the law, and it says anything. What's the paragraph before it say, Jay?
Lisa, can you pull your mic closer?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I can't hear you much either.
No, you're not.
What's the paragraph before that one say? That was in the veto letter,
Which one are you referring to specifically?
the paragraph before.
Before what?
In the state statute?
State statute that was referenced in the veto letter.
Well, I would like to read the entire state definition of mayor, if that's,
I don't
Okay.
care. That's fine.
would that be
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I just want to hear.
I mean, I was asking if Jay wants to read it.
If-
I did.
No, if you have it right there and ready to go, then please go ahead.
This was what was referenced at the last meeting, and I'm not going to rehash that. I don't want to bring that up. But the full definition of the mayor by state law is 1448-111. A1, the mayor of the city having the city administrator form of government shall be recognized as the head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes and by the governor for the purposes of military law. Number 2, he or she shall sign on behalf of the city all written agreements, contracts, bonds, mortgages, pledges, indentures, conveyances, and other written instruments, the execution of which have been approved by the board of directors. Number 3, he or she shall serve as chair of the board and shall preside at regular and special meetings of the board, but he or she shall not have a vote on any matter coming before the board. Letter B, 1, the sentence that Jay referenced in the last meeting, the mayor shall have the power of veto over all decisions made by the board except matters related to city personnel. Now, I will say, if Jay had taken the entire definition of the mayor at the last meeting, I believe every board member would have understood that having to sign all contracts by the mayor that have only been approved by the board of directors, approved being the key word, and that the mayor does not have a vote, by the veto that she performed, she did have a vote. She approved money to be applied without the board's approval, and a decision does not take into effect something that is not approved or passed. If we are going to look at what was quoted in the veto letter by the mayor, then we also have to look at what was written in the city's board rules, because that was quoted as well as the state definition. But yet, Jay did not reference the city board rules, of which says the mayor has the power to veto any ordinance, resolution, or order other than personnel adopted by the board. Adopted being the key word, within 5 days of the board of directors vote. And honestly, folks, I don't care if it's 3 days, 5 days, a week, whatever. It's a matter of that the board didn't know about it until it came out to the public, so I added that because that's something that was of concern. The other thing is that you simply cannot consider a decision that can be vetoed something that did not occur, because by doing so, you've now instituted a contract that was not approved by the board, which states by state law that's the only way a contract can go through. And for Jay to state at the last meeting that B1, the mayor shall have the power of veto over all decisions, was simply his opinion, doesn't really hold up that that must be overriding when it's vague and very, very broad. Now, we just heard the city administrator say that these are our board rules. They do not have to go by state law. They do not have to be approved by the AML. These are basically the bylaws of how we run the city board meetings, city board members, etc. These are what we decide. And I simply have added amendments according to things that I've seen in my last 2 years of believing that for all fairness to the public and to this board, that they should be changed.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So I had a citizen call concerned about the veto power. When I explained, but ultimately the board still has the final say, because ultimately the board can override any veto that the mayor presents. That to me is the safety net. That is what keeps the mayor from being able to disregard any decisions that we make as a board by using her veto power. So I feel like that is what we can stand on. I also feel like, this is my opinion, yes, we have voted on these rules and policies every year. I think if there had been any issues related to those policies that had come up around the time we were voting for them, or even before, and I think even Philip may have alluded to this, we would have considered making a change. To me, that's what's happening right now, that something didn't go quite right because it was something that had never happened before. So we're wanting to make sure we don't have to go through that again. I tend to feel like our guidelines should match the state guidelines. But
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So I'm going to read my official oath. It says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas, and I will faithfully discharge those duties of the office. I'm not questioning.
Still can't hear you.
I'm not questioning these specific rules. I'm questioning when we create these rules and we're saying it's a resolution and we put it in effect, One, we follow them, period. We follow them. Two, they have to represent the citizens. If there's any question, because I asked last time, was there any concern? And there was. It was stated, yes, there was. And we did not contact AML. Now we have to wait for an answer from AML to see if any laws have been violated, because the citizens' rights, we should not ever, ever risk the citizens' rights, ever. When we make a decision, it should be based on facts and laws, period. No exceptions. And I don't feel like we've done that. And now we're looking at changing policies again, but we don't even know if the policy that was in effect was legal or not. So I just want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever I do, you got to live with your own consequences. But for my consequences, I have to make sure that I've done my due diligence to check into the laws.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
obviously I'm new to all of this, but I'm sitting here listening to all this conversation, and what I hear is, well, sometimes the state law is the way to go, and sometimes the city can override and do their thing. Who has the ultimate authority? Who makes the decisions and decides, are we going by state law? Are we going by this? Who is the expert on this? Who has the ultimate say to what is the proper legal thing to do? Because I keep hearing both sides.
If the question is addressed to me, I mean, ultimately, it would be a judge who would decide these issues if it would get to that point. But back to the previous question, there are circumstances in state law where cities are given leeway to set up things to how they choose. But when something is in black and white, when a power is specifically given, then the city does not have the authority to contradict state law. And so that's the difference. I mean, when there are some, it's that simple. I mean, there are statutes that give cities broad authority to conduct things as they wish. Other statutes do not. And in this case, stated that, it's my opinion that the mayor has the authority to override any decision of the board. It's my opinion because that's what the statute says in black and white. And there's no legal authority out there, no case law, nothing that contradicts that. Now, perhaps when this all shakes out and all develops and, every attorney in the world has had an opportunity to poke at it, maybe something else would come out. But that hasn't happened. Right now, we have a statute that says what it says, and that's all I can refer you to is the statute, what it says, and we can speculate that maybe it means something else or was meant to mean something else, but in the meantime, it says what it says.
Yes, Carol.
I am not an attorney. I don't have a lot of legal knowledge. That's why I believe we have a city attorney. That's who I depend on. So when he tells me something, because of his legal knowledge, I believe it, and that's what I go by.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
So, yes, David.
Jay, can you give us a case, any kind of example where what occurred here, that the veto was based upon overriding a decision that resulted in a contract moving forward that was not approved by the board in any city?
Director Allen, no, I cannot. I could not find any example of that having occurred, or at least not having ever been contested in court. The closest case I could find was a case that involved the mayor vetoing an appointment by a city council to a city board, and that was contested and went to the Arkansas Supreme Court, and it said, well, there's nothing in here in the state law that gives the mayor, veto authority over appointments, and so therefore it was contested that it was illegal. The Supreme Court said no, and any action or any decision by a board, even if it's not formally called a resolution, is a resolution of the body whenever they of the governing body whenever they reach a decision. And because the state law does give the mayor veto over resolutions, then the appointment was in fact a resolution, even though it wasn't formally called that, and was in the mayor's authority. So that's the closest case I could find.
Okay, but that still was something that the council or board had passed. They had voted to advance that appointment. The mayor vetoed it after the council had had a majority pass it through.
That's correct.
Have you found anything anywhere where a veto was given based upon something that was denied or negated or not passed by the board?
I have not found any case specifically where that has occurred.
Because it's not legal. It's never been done because it's not something that can be done.
Again, I haven't found a decision either way on that.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Carol.
I still had the floor.
Yes, David, you still have the floor.
You go right ahead, Carol. Go right ahead.
Carol.
question is, if we do not get through all of this, can we continue our meeting?
Why could we not get
Have
through
to
it?
vote on this now.
Does this have to be voted on in the first meeting of the year?
I do not believe so. The intent is that, let me go back to my memo. The state act says we'll have an organizational meeting in January of each year. It's the intent that it would preferably be in the first meeting in January, but it doesn't have to be the first meeting in January.
So we could then, should the board choose, they can table this
Yes.
to the next meeting and have time to review the proposed changes by Director Allen, and perhaps we could get an opinion that Director Rissler has asked for from AML.
I've already asked for it.
Okay.
That the,
Mayor, we're almost done. I mean, we've only got 2 more past the mayor veto thing.
Matt,
If we wish to have a recess to review it a little more, that'd be fine, but we have traditionally always done this in the very first meeting, and in fact, the memo says preferably the first meeting in January.
That is true, preferably. Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a
Mindy.
follow-up to Director Allen's question about any cases that you were asking Jay if he just don't have any cases where the mayor has been able to veto something that's already been adopted. You said no. Is it possible that that's because the state statute is generally what is abided by city council? So the state statute that says the mayor can override any veto. So there's not a lot of cities that are going with this policy. Therefore, you're not going to run into a lot of cases. Is that possibly the reason why you aren't seeing a lot of those cases?
Well, I mean, speculation on my part, but yes, I think that's probably exactly why, because this is just a very unusual situation. I mean, it's never occurred before in Siloam Springs, as far as I know, and there are only 2 other cities in Arkansas that have this form of government and where this particular state statute would apply. So it's just again, just a very unusual circumstance that I don't think anybody anticipated that, you know, this kind of a conflict, you know, would potentially arise. And so, yeah, I think that's probably, again, speculation, but that's probably exactly why there's no cases on it, because it's so unusual.
I guess I still see this as maybe we haven't been doing it correctly and we're trying to get it corrected. Trying to go more with what the state is saying, that unfortunately we didn't realize that before it came up recently. But yes, we want to do what's legal and right. In this case, it may be moving forward. If it was questionable before, let's correct it. Let's make sure we're right moving forward.
So are you talking about the resolution or the procedures?
I'm talking about the mayor's veto power.
Okay.
And going with the state statute.
Okay. And so are you saying that what was presented to you with the administrator's
The redacted
memo,
version.
that is the one that you're saying we go with because that's what they have?
That's my preference because that is what is the state statute.
Okay.
But that's not part of the amendment.
No, it is not part of the amendment. We haven't voted on
No,
the
that's not
amendment
part
yet.
of your amendment. So it's discussing your amendment. It's
The amendment is basically keeping it as it has been for however many years we've had it. And by changing it to the word decisions, you're making it overly broad, and you're making it to where we can go through again where anytime in the future that the mayor wishes to veto anything that if our board passes something 7-0, $1 million contract that the mayor says, no, I don't think we should do that, then they can veto it and give it to someone else.
But we are also making it match the state statute by
Using the
by
word
changing
decision,
it.
which is overly broad.
Right,
What we have is more strict.
I understand that. And without rehashing the issue, I feel like it was a very unusual issue that even brought this all about. In my 4 years on the board, there's never been a time where we've only had 5 people at a meeting. And then I think, as you even said yourself, Director Allen, last time, I think we were all taken back that when the vote was 3-2, we thought it had passed. But it hadn't, and so it just brought up
And I would have
all of
easily
this.
offered to reconsider. I wasn't contacted by anyone after the night
And
of
I
the
understand.
meeting to do so, and within 3 days, the veto's up. Kind of preempted any reconsideration,
I feel like we learned a lot
which
from
was
that
the
issue.
legal way to do it.
I feel like we've learned a lot, and moving forward, we can try to do it correctly, do it better.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
do we need to get an opinion of Municipal League?
I've already asked for it. Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, a minute ago, and I agree.
I'm not done.
Okay?
Carol, go ahead.
If you asked for an opinion, have you gotten one?
Nope, or you would know it. I share information. I communicate very well.
Are you insinuating?
I'm not insinuating anything. I'm saying I communicate
I
very
would
well.
ask that we get an opinion that is brought back to the entire board on the mayor's veto power and the way it's written.
Madam Mayor, I have some questions.
Are you through, Carol? Yes? Okay. Lisa?
So, Director Allen, you just made a comment that the mayor, if we had, you gave it an example, and I agree with Philip. He said that, you said, if we all vote 7-0, and Judy wants to veto it, she can veto it and give the contract to somebody else. No, she can't. She can veto it, but what's that mean? When she vetoes it back for another vote, does she not?
He would
That's
veto,
correct.
she would veto it, and then that veto would be on the next board's agenda, which then the board could overturn the veto with five votes.
But what if something fails 7-0? If something fails, all the board members shoot it down and say, no, it failed. As it is now, the mayor can now veto the failure based upon the last meeting.
And that failure and that veto would be on the next board's agenda, and the board could overturn the mayor's veto by 5
But
votes.
you cannot veto a failure. You cannot veto something that was not passed or adopted based upon state law. The previous paragraph that Lisa asked us to look at says right here, the mayor must sign contracts. The mayor must only sign contracts adopted by the board. The mayor may not have a vote on any matter, but she did have a vote by vetoing something that failed by this board.
Director Allen, I don't want to debate the issue of the veto. I'm not here to do that, because the next paragraph says the mayor has veto power on any decision of the board. What I was trying to answer, and directly related to Director Ressler's comment, which was, if the mayor vetoes a motion that was passed by the board, that's a contract. The mayor has the right, I believe, to veto that contract. Whatever it is, whatever the mayor vetoes, it's going to be, that veto is going to be back on the next agenda, and with 5 votes, the board can override the mayor's veto. Now, you can...
I have
That's
questions
what we
on
have.
that.
That's what we have in the amendment right now, what you just stated.
And
When she vetoes it, though, this is my question. You guys are going to have to be able to answer this. So when she vetoes it and she says no, okay, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, we have an IT package and we want it. It's $1 million. I'm going to give you an example.
okay,
And
what was the example? You said
we have an IT package and it's $1 million. And we all say, yeah, we want it. Great. It's the best thing. And she vetoes it and she takes it back. And is it dead at that point, or do you have to, what happens? Can she reissue the money? Can she say, we're voting on the veto, but if it's already dead, how are we voting?
So the comment came up tonight during public comment that the mayor can't spend money. Well, the board appropriated the money,
Right.
in this case for Main Street, right?
No,
The board
they did not. I'm sorry, they did not.
I'm sorry, they did. They approved a budget that appropriated the money. It was approved as appropriation. Under that appropriation, when you appropriate that money, then, I mean, in all practical purposes, the city administrator could have signed that contract because it was within the city administrator's authority. The board's appropriated the money. In times past, we did sign those contracts and didn't bring them to the board because the board appropriated the money when we first moved on, and that's the way it went. About 4 years ago, the board asked to start seeing those contracts, and we started bringing those contracts to the board, and the board started approving them. So the money was appropriated in this case. The mayor approved the mayor's veto, in essence, approved the contract, and the board on the second meeting in December could have overridden that approval and overridden the mayor's veto in this case. So let's say for the sake of discussion, if it's okay, let's turn it around and say that the board voted to approve the contract on the first meeting in December. The mayor vetoes that vote. Then that veto comes back to the second meeting, the next meeting, and the board could overturn that veto and send the contract on. It can't be given to somebody else. As was stated earlier, it'd be back to that. The mayor doesn't have that authority. The mayor has the authority to veto the decision of the board, not to, I mean, you can debate this, but not to go in a totally different direction, right? It's either veto what was decided or not. And so, I think I understand the confusion. I wished in 2016 I had known about the provision in 1448-111 so that I could have put it in here originally. But as I stated earlier, as we continue to refine this, as we find areas that need revisions to conform to state statute, that's what we've tried to do. I have one other comment, if I may, and it doesn't relate to the mayor's veto. if that's okay. I would only ask if the board decides to go with Director Allen's amendments to item 6C on the first page, that we have at least one meeting of the board before that kicks in, because generally what that means is that if we start posting the agenda 7 days prior to the next meeting, that's currently today when we meet to start putting the agenda together. So I have to reschedule meetings. I have to get everybody's calendar cleared. If we have to start posting the board meeting, and let me just go to my calendar real quick. So as it stands today, the next meeting is January the 17th. We would post normally on January the 12th, and we would start meeting on the 10th to put the items to what's on the agenda. Staff would already start working on the Friday the 6th and Monday the 9th to start putting their motions, or excuse me, their memos together, so they can start flipping them to me on the 10th so that I can review them the 10th and the 11th. So if we started that process immediately, I would likely have to have a meeting tomorrow or Thursday to start that, to try to get all that done. I would ask if you're going to do that, which is fine, but you make a provision that we have, I mean, I'd love a month, but at least an extra board meeting before we have to make that change, because I have to make some adjustments to everybody's schedule. Thank you.
Just a moment. Let me ask one thing. Whenever you're talking about this and about agenda additions, how will that affect the items coming from planning and zoning to the board?
I honestly can't answer that today. I would have to go and spend some time trying to address that one. Generally speaking, I don't know that it would have a huge impact. The Planning Commission meets on January the 10th. Generally speaking, those items then are turned around and put on the first meeting in February. So I don't know that that would have a huge impact. I think it's more of an impact of staff is going to have to start writing their memos 3 or 4 days early, and we're going to have to meet to start setting the agenda 3 or 4 days early.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Yes,
Mayor.
Lisa.
I just had one last question. If we vote on this tonight and AML comes back or somebody doesn't like something, we can bring it back anytime and change it, can we not?
Amen.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I would like to know the reasoning behind 6C, because as long as I've been on the board, we've never had this week ahead to look, or 7 days. That's what this is saying, no later than 7 days prior to said meeting date. Even when I was chairman of the Planning Commission, I don't believe we had a 7-day.
Well, we're not talking about the planning commission.
Well, I'm not,
We're
but I
talking
don't
about-
understand.
We're talking about,
Personally,
David.
I don't, can you,
2
don't
days ahead.
iterate me.
She has
Don't
the floor,
interrupt
David.
me.
I was trying to answer your question you asked.
Go ahead, Carol.
I normally don't use a whole week to plan. Maybe I should. But I don't know that too many of us use a whole week ahead to look at our agenda. And I think it makes a tight schedule for our staff. And we're trying to make things get on our agenda quicker. This does not accomplish that.
May I answer the question?
Yes, sir, you may.
It's 2 days earlier, only 2 days. The reason is because I have repeatedly asked, since I've been back on this board for the last 2 years, the amount of times that we have had a holiday on a Monday and our board meeting is on Tuesday, we get the agenda, the packet at the end of day Thursday. We have Friday, that's it, that city staff is here for us to ask questions until the day of the meeting. And I have repeatedly said, when a holiday occurs on a Monday, we are at a disadvantage. Carol, you may not take a week, and I don't think it would take a week, but I think it is a disadvantage to anybody, public included, that wants to have a life of enjoying time on July 4th or Memorial Day or Labor Day or any of the other federal holidays that we follow that fall on Monday, ought to allow us 2 extra days to provide the board packet to us. I do not think it is too much to ask. I have asked a full week in advance of the day that it comes out, and the majority of the time the city administrator knows about what's going to be on it. I don't think 2 days is a whole lot to ask.
What I'm trying to say is that I don't care how much time is needed, but when I need to have some information from city staff, I ask it at a meeting so that the public knows what I am asking and they are hearing the answer. I don't usually ask city staff between when we get our agenda and the meeting.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I've not had an issue with the timing. Would there be a willingness to compromise and go in the middle there between, if we're getting it 5 days ahead of time instead of 7 days ahead of time, would 6 days, because that would give you that one extra Friday? Or maybe this would probably be too much to keep track of, but for those holiday weekends, we need to get it a day earlier. Would that be too much to track? Because I'm hearing you say, Director Allen, that you're missing out on a day of asking questions, especially during 3-day weekends. Is that correct?
Yeah. I honestly don't understand why having it 7 days in advance of the meeting is a problem.
Sounds like it just may be a little bit more to get together for staff. Perhaps eventually it would all work out, but I'm fine with the 5 days. But if it's having an extra day to ask questions, it seems that 6 days would be enough. That would still give them an extra day to have their meetings, have their planning time, or holiday weekends, we get it a day earlier. That gives you that extra day.
Can I comment?
Yes.
I would ask that you not have a provision that says we do it one way on weeks that aren't holidays and another way on weeks that are holidays.
I would think that would be harder to keep track of, but
Be a nightmare.
yeah.
As in the case of Director Allen's comments, if it's the Monday of a holiday, if the board so choose to, rather than have it posted on Thursday, to have it posted on Wednesday, which would give everybody Thursday and Friday, and if Monday's not a holiday, Monday and Tuesday to ask staff questions. That would just move everything back one day. We would have to, have our agenda setting meeting on Mondays rather than Tuesdays, and on Monday afternoons and Tuesdays, I would be reviewing all the items that are proposed on there, and staff would have to be a day ahead. So if that were acceptable, then I think that might solve the issue rather than trying to move it where, I'm assuming, Director Allen, if we move it 7 days, it's posted on the Tuesday before. Is that correct? Yeah.
Tuesday afternoon is when we would get it, because we right now get it Thursday afternoon.
Right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
do you remember when we used to get, like Peggy Woody, do you remember what day?
What I remember is the way you're getting it now.
Is on a Thursday?
Yep.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I worked for the city of Fayetteville. They had pre-board meetings. They had their board meeting in their board room, and then they had a pre-board meeting room, and they actually discussed the agenda before the meeting so that they could go back and do their research, get attorney opinions or whatever. And then when they came to the meeting, they were prepared completely. 7 days, 5 days, 4, 6 days,
Well, time and again, I've experienced where we have the federal holiday on Monday. Many times people take off on Friday for the 4-day weekend, and therefore, by doing it on Wednesday, we have 1 day besides the board day.
Would you be willing to compromise?
No. 7 days. I don't see the problem with it myself.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I want to apologize to Ken. Earlier, he did ask for the floor, and
Oh,
I
I'm
asked, and I apologize that was rude.
Well, that's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I'll get it in.
So, and I'm sorry I missed that too.
Well,
Ken?
that's all right. It's going to backtrack just a minute. This is going back to the veto thing, and I'm not wanting to rehash that. I just have a question for Jay, but Philip, you may have input on this too, because I know you and I have talked about it. Everything that's been referenced is been the law 1448-111. I think when we discussed this, that there's also another law that seems to contradict this. I just can't remember what number that is. Do you have that where you can read that and give me that number?
So, excuse me. When you and I met that day, yes, I have that section. It's 14-48, 120, G, 1A and B. And 2A and B. So pretty much 14-48, 120G, everything under G.
Okay.
When you and I met that day, I looked at this as having two conflicting statutes. And Jay mentioned at the last board meeting that he didn't think they were in conflict, that he thought they were working together. Because, Jay, you will have to explain that purpose of that, because I'm not an attorney. But when we met that day, you had asked me, and I said, well, originally the board's procedures were drafted based on this meetings of board of directors, which is 1448-120, and then based on what I was asked to do after the first meeting in December, it came to the attention of 1448-111. And that was the decision that was made. So I'll let Jay speak to how he views those two in working in concert with one another.
Okay, well, and that's great, and I appreciate that. But before that happens, just for my own edification, will you read that to me again, please?
Yes. So the 14-48-120 meetings of Board of Directors, item G 1A, all ordinance resolutions and motions adopted by the board at a regular meeting or special meeting shall be delivered to the mayor within 48 hours after the adoption thereof. B, the mayor shall have a period of 3 days from the date of the receipt of any ordinance, resolution, or motion adopted by the board to approve or veto it. If the mayor shall fail to approve or veto it within that period, it shall become law without the mayor's signature. 2A, any ordinance, resolution, or motion enacted or adopted by the board which is vetoed by the mayor may be enacted over the veto of the mayor by an affirmative vote of 5 or more members of the board. And then B, when any ordinance, resolution, or motions of the board is vetoed by the mayor, it shall be automatically on the next agenda for consideration of the board at the next regular meeting of the board and may be considered at a special meeting called in the manner authorized herein.
Okay, thank you. I knew we had discussed it. I couldn't remember exactly what one. I couldn't remember what the item number was, but what it said. And so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Like to,
If Jay wants to comment, that's fine.
Sure. And what I addressed briefly at the last meeting is that the law in Arkansas, and this was adopted by the Arkansas Supreme Court well over a century ago, and they've followed it consistently ever since, is that if you have statutes that have different wording but address the same topic, the directive is to read them in a harmonious way to avoid conflicts wherever possible. And in this particular case, we have one statute where it says mayor has veto power over any decision or all decisions of the board. And then we have other statutes that say the mayor can veto these certain particular things, or gives a framework for how those particular vetoes are handled. It does not in anywhere in those statutes say that it is intended to be exclusive or anything other than illustrative of how the power of veto operates. And so you can read them in that way, that these are, again, examples. They are illustrative of how a veto is to be handled. But again, it does not anywhere say that they are intended to be exclusive. And if you read that into the statute that they are exclusive, then that does create a conflict. And which the Supreme Court says you're not allowed to do. So again, my interpretation is that under the statutory construction adopted by the Arkansas Supreme Court, these various statutes are to be read in concert with one another. They are not to be read to the exclusion of one another. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. I just, like I said, I know we discussed it. I couldn't remember what that was, and it seems like every time it came up, it was the 111, and I just wanted to be reminded of what the other one was, so thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, David.
In reference to what Ken was just asking and Administrator Patterson read, I question why we have had the addition by Mr. Patterson of part of this for the 3 days. The 3 days has been added, which I'm saying, I don't care if it's 3 days, 5 days, or whatever, but the 3 days was taken from this section, and it is 14-48-120. The title is Meetings of the Board of Directors. And letter G, 1A, says, all ordinances, resolutions, and motions adopted by the board at a regular or special meeting shall be delivered to the mayor within 48 hours after the adoption thereof. Letter B, the mayor shall have a period of 3 days from the date of the receipt of any ordinance, resolution, or motion adopted by the board to approve or veto it. If he or she shall fail to approve or veto it within that period, it shall become law without his or her signature. So this is much more stringent than using the word decisions. Decisions is overly broad. This states in state law right here that the veto can only be done by something adopted by the board. The mayor shall have a period of 3 days from the date of receipt of any ordinance, resolution, or motion adopted by the board to approve or veto it. So I think that what we had before and what I'm suggesting stay in it abides by this right here. I think adding the word decisions is too overly broad, and if we're going to say we want to go by state law, this is state law right here as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
we seem to be going over things and over things. If we could call point of order, but I know we have a motion on the floor, don't we, with Director Smiley?
Yes, we do. We have, though, allowed for the discussion and for the motion made by Director Allen for the amendment to what we have, so I don't quite know how.
I don't believe that Director Allen made a motion. I think
I
Director
did
Allen
make
wanted
a
to.
motion.
Did you make a motion?
He actually
Make a
did.
motion.
Right.
Or-
Was there a second?
Oh, second.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Well, but, and when you haven't covered everything.
Yeah, we haven't covered everything yet. But if Reed is calling for the vote, you're calling for the vote, is
Do
that
a point
what
of
you're
order.
asking for? And you want a point of order for us to,
I didn't hear a point of order or question.
Well, and I have a completely different thing I would like to discuss
okay.
than what David has.
Okay, hang on just a second. All right, so Jay, just to make sure that we are doing this correctly, whenever we are asking for point of order, we are at what point? I mean, I realize we have had this discussion before about the procedural Robert's Rules of Order about ending the debate or the point of order, how we handle that whenever we are in the discussion that we are in.
Sorry, was there?
Yes, if you could
was that a
clarify
question?
that for us, because,
If I may,
yes,
I think the question is, what's the procedure what's the order of motions? We had a motion to approve as submitted,
right.
seconded. We had a motion to amend that motion, seconded.
I can withdraw my second because I want everybody to have a right. I can withdraw my second because I want everybody to have a right to speak. That's what process is supposed to be about. Even if the meeting goes to midnight, people should have the right to speak.
I'm not debating.
I'm not meaning that to you.
I'm not debating that one. I'm trying to, and that's
Figure out
where we
we
are.
are, yes.
That's where we are, and I don't know what Director Carroll was, I mean, you're still in discussion, so I don't know where it was going from there.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
even with Director Allen's motion to make some changes, we've even made changes to his changes, and I feel like we're not at a point where we're solidifying anything on this.
Got two more
So-
sections.
Madam Mayor,
we have, just a moment, we have two more items that, the D1 agenda and the E internal boards, committees, commissions, and appointments that are suggested changes by Director Allen. So before we move into that, I would say that we're at a point now where those are the things we have left to discuss. Betsy, you have asked for the floor. You have a question about,
yes. I would actually like to do an addendum under duties and privileges of directors at board meetings. 3, financial interest. That's pretty broad in here, whereas the state 1911-705 and 21-8-304A get more specific, like no public official or state employee shall use his position to secure special privileges or exemption for himself, his spouse, his child, parents, or other persons standing in the first degree of relationship, or for those with whom he has a substantial financial relationship that is not available to others except as may be otherwise provided by law. I think that would go along with the conflict of interest and the financial aspect, and I would like what we have in our board rules to say what it says in the state statutes and rules.
okay. So, we've,
We get a chalkboard.
yeah. Well, so are you wanting to make that in the form of another motion to amend? Is that correct?
Yes. I'm just learning how to do all this, so.
I understand. I understand, and we're kind of in new territory here for all of us, okay? So I think we have to act, we have to go to the one that's made the last, right? Is that correct? We have to go to the last motion, which is going to be hers. We have a second for that. We vote on that, right?
Who made the second?
Do we have a second for her
Second.
motion?
Second.
Well,
Okay.
is her, well, I have a question.
Okay.
Is her amendment include his amendment?
No, her amendment is strictly for what she has stated, her motion is.
So if we vote on that, his amendments go away?
No.
Nope,
No,
then we
we'll
go
get
back
to
to
that.
his amendment.
She goes first.
Okay.
Yeah,
But now,
Thank you, sorry.
but now Betsy, your
Thank you.
amendment is overriding what's in the board packet now?
Right, the board packet is pretty,
Can you read it again, what you just said?
what, the state?
Number would
Statute.
it be?
I think it's.
There are two of them that I've found. One is.
But I mean, on the board is it G2?
It's B, duties and privileges of directors at board meetings. And then if you go to 3, financial interest, that no member of the board of directors with a direct or indirect financial interest in any items before the board of directors shall participate in the discussion of or voting on such matter. I would like it to be more specific, as is stated by the Arkansas state law. And there are 2 areas it's discussed in Arkansas state law. And I think that will take care of any conflict of interest in the future.
Can you
Take
read?
those statutes?
And
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find where you're reading from
Oh.
in the procedure.
In
Yeah,
this,
what's that number again?
it's 3. It's under B3.
B3, thank you.
yeah.
Where is
Financial
it on
interest.
this one?
And then the state statutes,
What does the state statute say that you want added?
And the numbers.
Yeah. And the
well,
numbers.
there are 2 of them. This one is 218304A. And it says, no public official or state employee shall use his position to secure special privileges or exemption for himself, his spouse, child, parents, or other persons standing in the first degree of relationship, or for those with whom he has a substantial financial relationship that is not available to others except as may be otherwise provided by law.
And the other,
The other one, now I have to look, sorry. Oh, I have my glasses on. The other one is AR 1911-705. And it discusses conflict of interest standards. Yeah. There's quite a bit to it. The other one summarizes it much easier, but says the employee of any member of the employee's immediate family has a financial interest, a business or organization has a financial interest. Yeah, talks about direct, indirect. It's a long one. I think the other one is easier to go with.
just for clarification purposes, is your motion then to amend section B3, financial interest, to read similar or read as Arkansas Code annotated 21-8-304A?
That is correct, and
Okay.
thank you
Yes.
for your patience.
Can you give us the numbers again? 21?
21-8-304A, as in apple.
Yes, and the other one, which is much longer, is 1911-705.
But we are going to go by, you're asking us to go by this state statute,
Right.
218-8-304-A. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, I
all
was
right.
just
Which is
giving.
what you just read.
Yes, the one I just read.
So we have that motion, and Ken, you have seconded that motion. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point in time,
there any discussion?
We
on the
have,
motion?
is there a discussion on this particular amendment, motion, and second? If there is, yes,
Madam Mayor,
Mindy.
The only thing I want to say, and it kind of goes back to the other, but I have no problem going with the stricter language because it is state statute. That's where I'm coming from on the mayor's veto
Okay.
power and the redacted version that's being presented to us for that as well. So I'm just putting that out there.
Okay. Philip, did you have something you wanted to say before we vote?
If I may.
Yes, sir.
And not trying to cut the discussion off, not trying to put this off, but it might be helpful for everyone if you do push this to the 17th and allow staff to take the current version of the procedures and provide you on the 17th with a redacted red line version, struck out in, striked out text, added new text, so you could see all of it in one form. But it's just, for me, that's always helpful, rather than trying to sort of cut and paste when it's not all together, but that's strictly up to you.
I'm okay with voting.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I would like to see that. I would like to see that. And there's one thing back to the public input. Director Allen mentioned something about how he wants to switch to public input, but I'm not seeing that in his document with amendments. And I'm probably just not seeing it.
I believe on,
First page, 6D.
the first page where it says public
6D2.
comments or,
6D2.
right.
I believe that's, Director Allen, if I may, 6D2 is the addition to the 6D. Is that correct?
6D is swapping 2 and 3 because it was public comments, then board of directors, and now it's board of directors and then public comments.
Okay, okay, thank you. I would like to see the redacted version that you just talked about. That would make it much easier for me, but.
Madam Mayor, I would
Yes.
as well.
Okay, so do we want to then, do you want to make a motion to table this?
I will,
Can she not make another motion?
or do we need to vote on
And it goes back.
Betsy's
And then
motion?
we'll go back to all of them.
We got to vote on the on the amendment.
Got a motion and a second.
Well, he has a motion and a second.
He does. What I understood
Okay.
Mr. Patterson to say was that
Did you
she would
second?
include what Betsy just presented as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now,
Sorry.
So I believe under Robert's Rules of Orders and Procedures of Motion, a motion to table, supersedes everything else.
everything. That's what I thought.
So you would, be tabling this, you would still have Director Blair's motion to amend Director Allen's motion, to amend Director Smiley's motion when we come back. Or you wouldn't have to, because we would take all these proposed changes and add them in, and you could go then one by one by one, and however you wish to deal with them,
Propose any
one by
changes
one
at
or
that
all of them
point.
together in a single motion. You could deal with
Gotcha.
them at that time. But we would be happy to at least put all these in a redacted, red line version of the procedures, so you could see exactly what the changes were, what language is taken out, what language is added.
Okay, so at this point in time,
I was just going to ask, may I ask that Director Allen mentioned something about the mayoral veto, and if we're going to go with all decisions, we need to go with a verbiage that is before it. Can we see that? Apparently there's verbiage that precedes the verbiage about the mayor having the right to veto any decision. And do we already have that? I don't see the conflict, but Director Allen has mentioned that there is a conflict.
There's the one that Philip read a moment ago, which is number 120, And then the original number 111 that Jay said, the word decisions applies to any single thing that's done, even if it's a failure. So 120, G1, well, everything, as Philip said, everything under G on 120 actually is very, very similar to what we have now.
Right.
Except it's 3 days instead of 5, but if you count the 48 hours until it's still 5, so.
And the reason we, if I may, Director Allen, the reason we changed it or proposed to change it to 3 was because generally the motions and resolutions are submitted to the mayor the night. They're not submitted 48 hours. So once she receives them, he or she only has 3 days.
Well, but I think you said in case the mayor's out of town, that's the vice mayor, they have 48 hours to actually accept it or receive it or whatever.
Right, so it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it still might be
It's still
5
5
days,
days, yeah.
but there's, it's that 48-hour clock may tick or may not tick, right? What I would do, if this is the pleasure of the board, is in that particular section, I would include what staff included in the memo, and then another provision or what Director Allen included in his, and you could decide which one you wish to
Okay, that's
go
what
with, so that you have
That works.
both as an option. I mean, we just listed as option A or option B or something.
Okay. So, Mindy, with that, do you have a motion to table?
I move that we table this discussion. And do I need to add so that the staff has time to work on?
To bring you back a redacted
Bringing a
version?
redacted version that will include the amendments
Table
that
to
have
the
been
17th.
tabled to the
17th.
17th.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to table until the 17th for staff to make the suggested changes by both Director Allen
Mhm.
and Director Finn.
Mhm.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
We've got everything that I wanted in the amendments in front of us. We've gone over just about everything except 2 of them. And I think what Director Blair put out was stricter and read it to us, and it sounded fine. I don't see a reason to table.
Okay.
Especially with the fact that we are supposed to be doing it ASAP.
So what we're going to do is, we have these motions, and we're going to go through them, starting with the one to table, and if that fails, then we'll come back through to the other motions and seconds that we have before us.
Vote on the tabling?
Yes, that is the last.
Did you have a second on
Yes,
that?
sir, I did. I had a second.
I couldn't hear, so.
So, roll call on motion to table.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Whistler.
No.
Allen.
No.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Miley.
Yes.
Motion to table is approved. This will be brought back to the next meeting on the 17th with the proposed amendments. With that, we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is Resolution 03-23, the 2023 budget amendment for part-time employees. Christina.
Mayor, members of the board, Christina Patrichis, Finance Director. Before you is a resolution to amend the budget increasing part-time and seasonal employee pay as was discussed in the last meeting's staff report. If you would like to exclude seasonal employees, please approve the resolution subject to the removal of seasonal employees as indicated in Exhibit A. And staff,
Christina, into the mic, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
and staff is available for questions. Did you guys hear what I was saying though? Is there anything I need to repeat for you? No.
Any
Okay.
questions? No, okay. Did everyone understand what she was telling us?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So is there anyone in the audience that has questions about Resolution 03-23? There is not. Directors?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
So, the meeting that we discussed doing the raises and stuff, I was not here. And so since then, I've been able to watch some of the meeting and kind of get a clue. And I know I sent an email in regarding part-time employees and how I felt they should be able to get this. And since this is a resolution based off of that decision, I have another question that came out of that. And can somebody explain to me how the hourly rate works for the fire department? Like, so if you take they're salaried, are they not? Are they salaried employees? Are they hourly?
The bulk of the firefighters are hourly.
Most of the firefighters are hourly. And so the ones that are salary, do they end up making less than the firemen that are currently there, or do they end up making, I know they have to make more than minimum wage, that's federal law, but do they, or maybe I should ask this, maybe can you send me something that shows what the fireman breakdown is for their hourly pay, whether they are salary or hourly? And then maybe it'll bring up another whole resolution, possibly.
Yes, I can send you a copy of the compensation plan.
Okay, yeah, if you could send it. And what I'd like to see is the fireman's salary broken down into, the salaried employees broken down into the hourly. There should be an equation. So you
Yes.
use, the company you use, I'm very familiar with them, Johansson Group. So you should be able to have an equation for that. So if I can see that equation is actually what I want to see.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're really nice to get that to you and stuff, so,
Okay. That's not a problem.
thank you.
Anyone else? If not, and Lisa, I'm just assuming that's information you want given to you. Is that correct? That's what you've asked for is,
Yeah,
Yes.
because I don't think it would add to the part-time, but it might add to that original, when I was absent,
okay.
vote that we had.
So that was something that you would look at a later date, though. You just want that information right now.
Yeah,
So she'll get that to you.
yeah.
Yes,
thank you.
okay. Okay, just making sure. Anyone else? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 03-23 for the 2023 budget amendment?
So moved?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Resolution 03-23 is adopted. Next is our staff reports, the November 2022 financials and the administrator's report. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you stated, the November 2022 financials are in your packet. If you have any questions, feel free to contact myself or Christina. As it relates to my administrator's report, I want to congratulate the two newly elected board members and also the two re-elected board members. As the mayor stated, we have 4 future years. So hopefully, I don't know what time it is on that clock, but we'll have more meetings similar to this one. In the expenditures that I need to report, $39,461 in the electric department for 2023 Dodge Ram 1500 quad 4x4 pickup. That was a budgeted item in 2023. It's a wonder we were able to actually find one of those trucks, and we did, and jumped on it as quickly as we could. Under the previous resolution, 4322, we had a $95,766 expenditure in the water department for 264 AMI water meters, and those are new water meters that we need for inventory as we continue to grow. The Utility Commission is their first meeting. Their meetings are going to be on the last Thursday of the month, so their first meeting will be on the 28th at 5:30 here at City Hall. The community survey has been completed. The consultant is working on completing the report and hopes to have that to staff by mid-January, and likely will schedule a workshop where they can virtually present the results either the first meeting in February or the second meeting in February, depending on some other issues that we're juggling with trying to do workshops on. I wanted to report to you that we're changing the courtroom hours slightly. The current hours are 8 to 5 with a 1 hour for lunch. The court building is open to the public 8 to 4 daily, but we need to adjust their in the employee hours slightly so that they have a little bit of time before the doors open for the public. So we're going to, beginning as of today, change that to 7:30 to 4:30 for staff, but the public will still be available to, the hours for the public doesn't change, 8 o'clock to 4 p.m. But what's happening today is staff gets there at 8 and the public's right there at 8 o'clock, and they need a few minutes beforehand to prepare for that. I am proposing to have a workshop on the 17th with the Northwest Arkansas Land Trust. You had asked at some time about doing a conservation easement on part of the property in Oklahoma. I reached out to 2 different land trusts, the Northwest Arkansas Land Trust and Ozark Land Trust. Ozark did not submit a proposal because they recognize that Northwest Arkansas Land Trust is probably the more appropriate entity if we were to go that route. So on the 17th, we'll have a workshop. Their representatives will be here. For the new board members, I'll do a quick overview of the land that we own in Oklahoma and the land that would likely be subject to a conservation easement if that's the choice of the board. And then lastly, and I'll let Jay explain this one a little bit to give you a heads up, but as I've told the board in previous emails, we are currently in a lawsuit called Lockhart versus City of Siloam Springs. We received a settlement conference schedule. We received a notice from the court today, right about 4 o'clock this afternoon, that a settlement conference has been scheduled for January the 19th at 9 a.m. at the U.S. Federal Building in Fayetteville. And as a public entity, the mayor and the board, or at least a quorum of the board, is required to attend that settlement conference in order to be able to authorize a settlement, or you can elect or present by resolution, I assume, a representative and give that representative the authority to attend in place of the board and the authority to create or to agree to any settlement. But I want Jay to give you an update on the status of that lawsuit. Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. This goes back to a traffic stop way back March 11th of 2019. Early morning hours, I think around 3:30 in the morning. Officer observed a vehicle on Highway 412 that had come from the casino, was proceeding east. The vehicle was observed driving erratically, including crossing out of the vehicle's lane of travel into the adjacent lane at times. So a stop was made and ultimately an arrest. Since then, the party that was stopped and arrested has made various claims that the arrest was illegal, a violation of his civil rights, that violations of his rights against unreasonable search and seizure, false arrest, a large number of claims. Those were investigated by the police department. I looked at those also, as what did the AML. And conclusion was that there were no actionable violations that occurred. Nonetheless, lawsuit was filed. It is being contested. A motion to dismiss based on summary judgment is currently pending. We don't know when the judge will rule on that. But in the meantime, the plaintiff, the party that was arrested, has requested a settlement conference, which the judge has granted. As Philip noted, it is required that all parties attending or all parties involved in the suit attend the settlement conference with authority to settle should a settlement be reached. And so one way to do that is to have a quorum of the board. But back when I was handling cases in federal court on a regular basis. That was seldom ever done. It's very unwieldy to have a full-blown meeting of a governing body within the confines of a settlement conference. Also, because we are required to record our meetings, that often conflicts with judges' rules against recording in settlement conferences. So it's again unwieldy. I did attempt to make contact with the paralegal from the AML that's been working on this, as well as the lead attorney from the AML. I was not able to contact either one of them in this afternoon, but my anticipation is going to be that they will recommend that we pass a resolution and designate a particular individual to have settlement authority and attend on the board's behalf. So I anticipate, if that's the case, that we will be bringing that back at the next meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Philip, that is all of your administrator's report?
No, ma'am, that's it. I think, as Jay said, we will likely draft a resolution and leave a name blank, and if you wish to authorize somebody to go and authorize them, we're going to need that resolution for the courts. I agree with Jay. It's awkward that state law says we have to record meetings of the board. You have 4 meetings, 4 members there, or 2 members for that matter, but if you have a quorum at the federal courthouse, that's a meeting of the board, then we have to record it. That would probably be in conflict, maybe in conflict with the federal judge's rule. I'm hoping that the courts, as Jay said, the settlement or the what did you call it?
The motion for summary judgment.
Yeah, the motion for summary judgment is decided upon before the 19th, and that may put an end to this whole thing, and we don't have to worry about it. But if so, then either 4 of you, at least 4 of you, or whoever you authorize, if that's your choice to have settlement authority, have got to show up at the courthouse at 9 o'clock on the 19th. Madam Mayor, that's our report.
Thank you, Philip. So I guess that I would ask that as you're making your director's report, just make the comment that you are in agreement that they will bring that to you on the 17th for your review and discussion. So with that, we will move into our director's reports. And Mindy, we will begin with you. And David, we will end with you.
Okay. Yes, to bringing the resolution for the settlement case. Let's see, Mayor, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry for your loss.
Appreciate that.
You'll be in our thoughts and prayers. I want to thank the Holly Jolly contest participants for decorating their homes this year for citizens to be able to enjoy. And thank you to the Chamber, Arthur and Lindsay and Jenna for being the ones to really drive that, and for the board members that pushed that we be able to hold it this year. I think that is a fun thing for our citizens, so thank you. Thanks also to the judges. I know that was probably even a bigger deal than they originally realized when they signed up for it with the weather the way it was those couple of days. So thank you to them, and congratulations to the winners. The man that won the whole thing, Mr. Phillips, the outside is just of his house is just a touch of what he does for decorations. He puts a tree in every nook and cranny in his home. It is absolutely amazing what that man does to decorate for Christmas. Pretty cool. Okay, only other thing I have to say is just Happy New Year. And may this be a year of us as a board working together for and on behalf of the citizens of Siloam Springs.
Thank you, Mindy. So Ken?
I guess I've got 3 things. First, Philip, yes, I agree with the plan to bring something to the next meeting. 2, do we have anybody tall enough to change the battery in that clock?
We will tomorrow.
Okay. So I'm trying not to look at it, but
I've looked at it all night long.
It compels me, and so please. the only other thing I would like to say is, from the time I gave notice of running for this position, I have received nothing but support and encouragement, not just from Ward 2, but from all over the city. I cannot express how much I appreciate all that has been said and done. It is so humbling. It is an honor to be sitting here, and please understand I do not take it lightly. It is to me, I see it as a duty as well as a privilege, and I will give my best to the task at hand. I hope as we go through the 4 years that there will be much communication between myself and specifically Ward 2, but this goes for everybody within the city. I cannot do this alone. I will not even try to do this alone. And so I am pleading to everyone to let's work together. And it's the outcome will be much better, believe me, because everybody's got a whole lot more ideas than what I can come up with on my own. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it greatly. And that is an awful lot of words, and I don't do that very often, so don't get used to that. But thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Betsy?
And I also say yes to the resolution for next time. And I have, I don't know, a few comments, maybe 45 minutes, and then I'll be finished. And I am sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Very much. I know that's hard. First of all, I wanted to thank Director Marla Sappington she had left big shoes to fill, and especially for the December 20th meeting. I watched it online and I was appalled by the behavior that was allowed to go on in this board meeting. I have lots of words for it, but I won't use them. I hope that if I'm ever in that position, I will have the wherewithal and strength to stand up and call order the way Marla did. I wanted to thank you for that. I hope I can do the same thing. Or I hope I never have to. I want to thank the citizens and everyone for allowing me to be in this position. I take it very seriously. I am here for the citizens. I'm not here for myself, my family, special interest groups. If I ever forget that, call me out on it. I have no problem with that. Refocus me, because my goal is to uphold the Constitution and the citizens' rights. So, and I hope that citizens feel free to contact me if they have issues or problems. Yeah, I am available. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve, and I take it very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Philip, I have a question. Who is that you usually select? Would it be a staff member or one of the board members expected to go over there?
Well, I would probably would say, generally speaking, it would be the city administrator, because that's who the authority would likely be given to. But I'm not going to put my name on that resolution.
I was just wondering, because when we come in, I want, is one of us going to be stuck going over there? Or, I kind of wanted to have an idea of what to expect.
I'm hoping you would go instead of me.
No,
but yes.
I wouldn't.
But no, I mean, generally speaking, you would either, grant it to Jay or myself. That would be the two staff members, one of the two staff members that I would say you would choose from if that's what you do, or grant it to the mayor.
Okay.
But, in order for the whole board not to show, or at least for you, you've got to assign it to some individual.
Okay, I just didn't know if it had to be a board member or not.
I don't believe it has to be a board member.
No. Philip, if I may, it wouldn't be me, because I'm a legal advocate for the city. But typically in times past, it has either been administrator or the mayor, but not necessarily limited to that, but that's just typically who it comes down to.
I was just wondering what the expectation was when we walked in.
I was planning to put your name in it.
No, because I think I have a clue. I want to give my condolences to Judy. Your neighbors, in many cases, they become your family. And I think I know what neighbor you're talking about. and they are your family, and so I give my condolences to you. I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone, and mine's long tonight. Usually mine's pretty short, and half the time I skip, but tonight I'm going to actually read something off. I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I pray that God blesses our community and all within it. For me, this isn't just a new year, but the start of my next 4-year term on the board. I would like to start this term off by identifying my agenda and goals for the next 4 years. First, and most importantly, I want to make sure I serve this position in a godly manner. For all of us that serve God, this may mean different things for different people. I want to make sure I continue to pray for those in our community. I want to pray for every decision I must make and pray that God allows me to see the truth always, to see how my decisions affect the community as a whole. I want to make sure every decision I make represents God's word to the fullest. It is important to me that I grow daily in His presence, and by studying His word, lead a life that He, and He only, will say, "Well done, my child." I do not live for man, but for God alone. I want to serve how God, who put me in this position, would like me to serve. Second, I want to serve the citizens by being a voice for them. I want to represent all citizens, starting with my ward, then the city as a whole. I've said it before, and I stand firmly on the belief that citizens voted me in to make a decision, but not ever at the expense of losing their voice. I've had many citizens all over the city contact me for help. I consider it a great honor to be a servant of the community, the whole community. I would also like to reiterate a few requests that I have made in the past and will continue to make in the future. One, I would like for us to relook at the solar buy-all sell-all. I have mentioned a few suggestions, but one that has been done successfully at other cities is allowing citizens to participate in a green program. For those individuals that do not want to invest in solar equipment but would like to be a part of the green initiative, they can buy green energy, allowing for increased payout to solar customers for their energy. This seems to be a win-win situation, but I am open to other solutions that will be a complete win-win for all involved. Another thing I have requested that we look at is bringing the museum into the city. Not every city is as fortunate as we are to have the history like we do. Preserving this history, for some, is a quality of life. Thank you to the citizens that voted for me to represent them. I always want to hear from you, and I care deeply about what you have to say. I hope the ones that disagree with me pray and let God lead them in understanding or lead them in their approach of disagreement with a Christian heart. As I have said, I do not live for man, but God alone. My joy comes from the Lord. I hope citizens take advantage of the daddy-daughter dance. I'm excited that that's coming back after the COVID. We had a lot of people requesting it a couple years ago, and so now that it's back, I hope a lot of people participate. One of the things I keep seeing reoccur on when we post about the daddy-daughter dance is the mother-son dance. And if we are going to have that, can we let people know that we're going to have that? Like even add it to the daddy-daughter dance post or something, just so that they know they have something to look forward to. The last thing I have is to announce that the community prayer for our community, our county, our state, and federal government is this Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Chamber of Commerce. And I just want to kind of share how this got started. When 9/11 came, it was the anniversary of 9/11, and we had a prayer outside City Hall. We had very good attendance. And I had lots of different denominations coming to me saying, hey, can we not do this more often, pray together more often to bring the denominations together, and we're not separate denominations, we're one denomination, and we're praying for our city, we're praying for our county and state and federal government. So I explained that I don't really have time. I would support on any decision they made, and I helped guide them, and then they created this group. And now every month for over a year now, this group has been meeting at the Chamber of Commerce at 9 a.m. on the first Saturday of the month to pray for us, pray for county and our state and our federal government, but they are personalizing it and praying for us. And I can't say thank you enough for those that do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on to Reed, if I might, sorry, Marla, I did not even realize you were sitting back there. And I want to say thank you for your service these past years to our community. I know your heart was in every decision that you made, and that you loved your citizens and this community because it's been a part of your family. You've been a part of this community all your life. So thank you, and it's nice to see you here. So with that, Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes to the resolution. And Philip, I did recognize that you had no tie on tonight. I was looking forward to what was next, but we'll wait till next
You'll have
Christmas.
to wait till next December, yes, sir.
Tonight I want to give a shout out to Rebecca Presley. She's a registered nurse at Siloam Springs Regional Hospital for the past 9 years. And she has received a 2022 Nursing Excellence Award, which is one of 10 national winners selected through the health system that we have here in our community, but it's also many other hospitals across the nation. And Chief Administrative Officer Chris Blair and Chief Nursing Officer Marie, I'm going to say it, Wicklinski. Sorry, Marie. They were able to be there with her as that was presented. That's just something we have that we can be proud of along with our city. All the wonderful things that we have nurses that are recognized as well. Administrator Patterson, I would like to ask that when we have our quarterly reports from the different groups, such as the Chamber, Main Street and such, that and the museum, that we can, when we hear from them on the reports, if we could also have maybe just a little report, it doesn't even have to be very long, just on where they are now and where they're heading here for the next little bit. Just give us kind of a taste of what's to come. And I think that'd be something that could keep us updated and something to look forward to from the various groups as we go throughout the year and keep us informed. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Reed. Carol?
Madam Mayor, and you are in my thoughts. And yes, to the question that Jay had. And are we supposed to designate a person to be our representative? If so, I would do the city administrator.
That'll be in a resolution for the next meeting.
Okay. I do know that the city has an area if you want to recycle your Christmas trees, if you're looking for a place to take them. It's at the Benton County Waste, which is at 110 East Ashley, which is where our transfer station is. Unfortunately, I don't have a real tree, and I wish I would have. There are several different things going on at the library this week. If you're looking for something for your children to do, there's some reading programs, there's some building programs at the library. And I just hope everybody has a great 2023, and that we started out with peace and love for our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to give a huge shout out to Jenna and Lindsay and Arthur and the rest of his staff for doing what the city couldn't do, picking up the slack on this Holly Jolly home decor contest. It was a big turnout, or big number that actually, in the end, actually did enter, and they were beautiful. They did a great job. Congrats to Mel Phillips for being the overall winner. And I thought the award winners were very well chosen. I like that. But just a huge thank you to them, the chamber, for helping us continue something that I think has turned into a wonderful tradition, and I look forward to the chamber helping us in the future. Congrats to Betsy Blair-Finn. I hope you don't live to regret it. Ken, welcome back. Congrats to you. Well, welcome back, because you're back now. So congrats to both of you for being here and your first meeting. Condolences, Mayor Judy. That's a long time to have a neighbor next to you, and as Lisa said, they are family. I did have a question. Philip, Lisa brought up the daddy-daughter dance. I just had people ask why it's 3 different things instead of like one evening.
I think because staff, and I'd have to ask Parks, but I assume it was because of the belief that there's going to be a huge demand for it since we haven't had it.
Okay.
Don's shaking his head yes at me,
Thanks.
so
Yeah.
that was the reason why, because
Okay.
we couldn't fit everybody that's probably likely. So we wanted to give as many opportunities for people to
Because
come.
we've not had it a couple years, right?
That's right, because of COVID,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay. I just did, I had questions, and I said I would tentatively get back to people, and I thought that was probably the reason. I wanted to also say thank you to the citizens who, when something happens they don't like, they reach out to us. Recently, we had several reach out about the change of the Zumba classes, and I mean, Philip was on it right away. I thought it was a funny subject to be checking on, but I was pleased that the Parks Director and Don and Philip got together and said what's best. And when you have that many people that it's important to, especially in the number of ones that contacted me saying this is not just about physical health, it helps mental health to have the exercise. I think it's really important, especially with what people have gone through with COVID. So I was really appreciative to our staff to accommodate and make sure that remained with 2 times a week. And then I had constituents reach out about one of their favorite employees who goes the extra mile and always helps them. And it's in sanitation of all places. And so, whenever things happen and they're unsure, I want everybody to be able to reach out through email or call and just say, can you give us an answer? Can you help us? And Philip knew right away what to do on this, and I appreciated that a lot. And Happy New Year, 2023. It's hard to imagine that we're 23 years into this new millennium, but we are. So that's almost a quarter of the century, folks. It's very scary. So thank you very much. Thanks for everyone being here on the first meeting. And thank you, Christina, wherever Christina went, for following up on that, what we talked about, the extra pay and everything. I thought you did great on that, and I just wish you hadn't had to stay here the entire meeting for that to be at the very, very end. But thank you for following up on that. Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those approved say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Happy New Year.